Hello, Augies Worldwide. I'm Dave Casler, amateur radio call sign KE0OG, with another episode of Ask Dave. And here we're going to talk about the trade-off between the quality of the antenna and the quality of the radio. I currently have an ICOM 7200, and it is past time to upgrade. My current property, meaning his land, which I plan to stay at for many years to come, provides limited space for a proper antenna. Ignoring costs for the moment, since I'm stuck with compromised antennas, would the features of higher-end radios be wasted, or would they help? Now, including costs, would the benefits outweigh the increased costs? And this is from Rich Swope, K1 RDS in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Interesting question. For the best part of my life, I've always had a unity gain antenna. And that's what I'm working with right now. My antenna is from Step IR. That's a company up in Portland, Oregon. And the antenna I have from them is called the Big IR. And it works on one band at a time, but you can change the bands from inside. Now you can also get antennas like the Cushcraft series, the AV640, the AV680, although I will tell you, for the very tiny slice of 80 that you get on 80, it's not worth the extra cost. Just get the AV640. They do not require radials, but they do require being mounted up about 10 feet off the ground. You can put it on your roof, you can put it on a pole next to the house, you can put it out in the backyard in a tree, or whatever you would like. That antenna is also a unity gain antenna. It's expensive, but it will not give you any more gain than a dipole. Another option is if you can get 66 feet from your house out to something, the fence, whatever, you can put in a end-fed dipole. You can get the kit for it from the Arrl, and it will allow you to work 40, 20, 15, and 10 very nicely. Covers all the 40 meters too. If you have 132 feet out there, you can extend it and it'll work on a part of 80. It'll work on the part of 80 down at the low end of the band where FT8 is, and CW and RIDI and all those other kinds of things like that. It won't be any good for getting up into the voice part of the band. If you only want to do voice on 80, good luck to you, because the band is full of old timers who always have nets, and they're all talking to their buddies, and it's sometimes hard to break into that. Sometimes people don't mind other people coming in. Sometimes they do mind. So that would be a good antenna that you could put in. Again, that'll radiate 100 watts easily. You could put in a full-size vertical, but then you'd have to run radials. My Step IR Big IR requires radials, and I've got about 30 of them out there, and it performs extremely well. Now, if you want to go with the gain antenna, you might take a look at simply the Hexbeam, which is available from a variety of suppliers. Don't buy the Buddy Pole one, because that's designed for portable use. Okay, like field days, soda, POTA, not soda. Who'd want to haul one of those things up a mountainside? But it will work for POTA. They take a while to set up, okay? And you've got to do something. You've got to guide them or they'll fall over. Now, there's some other antennas I've looked at and been impressed with. One is the Wolf River Coils Take It Along antenna. The problem with that is when you change bands, you've got to go outside and physically move something on the antenna. The Buddy Pole has the same problem. Same with super antennas. There's all different kinds of antennas that you've got. There's an MFJ antenna that I looked at and really liked, and it was about 2 weeks later when they said they were closing. So too bad, because this is a really nice antenna. It was ground mounted, just needed a few radials. It was less than 20 feet tall and worked beautifully, just absolutely beautifully. I did A and B comparisons with my Big IR. They were very close. Yes, the MFJ was a compromised antenna. Since you are going to be there for a while, I would suggest a full-sized antenna. So that would mean an end-fed half wave or an AV640 or something like that that will radiate well on all the bands. Now, the AV640, it says it's internal band switching. It isn't. But what that really means is you don't have to do anything to the antenna to make it operate on the other band. So Some manufacturers call that automatic band switching. There's no band switching being done. The antenna is simply resonant on all those bands. I used to have an R7, which is similar to the AV640 in some respects, and worked beautifully. I really enjoyed the thing. A guy really had to strong-arm me to sell it to him, so I did with some regret. But you've got lots of antenna options, okay? What will a better radio do? Let's say you're upgrading from the ICOM 7300. The next upgrade from that, at about 3 times the price, is the 7610. I had the opportunity to use a 7610 for a few months, and before I got my 7300, and oh man, what a different radio. It was a wonderful radio. Another radio I really like is, and they don't sell this one anymore, but it's the one over there, the black one. That's a Yaesu FTDX 3000. Okay, that is not a beginner's radio. It's a mid-level radio. Their 5000 is their top of the line. I have never used a better receiver than the one that's in that radio. Now, why don't I have that over here? The reason that I don't have it over here is because this is the reference station. And when I put the reference station together, I decided I'd better be operating that too, in case people had questions. And whenever I make a video about how to operate HF, I use that radio. The bigger radios will give you somewhat better receivers at the margin. Anything this thing can hear, a 7610 can hear, okay? If you go to like the FTDX, I think it's 5000, or the FTDX 100 is a bunch of money too. Kenwood makes a very expensive radio, as does ICOM. They all make them. Now, like I said, the 7610 is about 3 times the price of this over here. It has a somewhat better receiver. On CW, you can actually narrow it, a combination of the IF filters and an audio filter, so like you just get on one Morse code signal. Another signal would have to be like just 5 or 6 hertz away from it to be heard. Beautiful sharp filters in there. So that's one way that it make it easier on CW. The thing also has better statistics for signals at the margin, meaning ones you could barely eke out on here would be a little bit better. So if you're a DXer or if you are a contester, yeah, the upgrade would pay. I would not say that the 7610 is a beginner's radio. It's an intermediate radio. Now, you get all kinds of filters, but you get filters on this thing, like the noise reduction filter, the noise blanker. What else is hidden on here? Preamps and attenuators, a notch filter, a nice waterfall on here, and so on. This radio is a wonderful radio. I may go back to that one 10 years from now when I can't do YouTube anymore, or just simply buy a new radio. Now, some years ago, when I was working with a Ten-Tec Jupiter, which is the radio in the middle, that was built by Ten-Tec and sold for about 10 years, starting somewhere around the year 2000 on up to about 2010. Ten-Tec is out of business. That's an American-made radio, okay? And I used that as my primary radio for 10 years. And then I started looking at upgrading, and I looked at the Yaesu FT950, and finally decided it wasn't enough of an upgrade to make it worth the while to change. But when that 3000 came along, I finally convinced myself that's what I wanted, and oh no, that was an upgrade. Okay, quieter receiver, hear signals better, separate out the other signals and so on. It's got the roofing filters and all that. Now that radio is part digital. It's got a standard heterodyne till you get down to an IF of maybe 50 kilohertz, and that's the point where they do the signal sampling. Then everything else is DSP. In the ICOM radios, the 7300, this is DSP from the very front end of the radio. Now, that's good and that's bad. That's good because you can do some pretty fantastic, interesting things. Bad because it still can be overloaded a little bit and go beyond the bit range that's inherent in the receiver. So that's a long-winded way of talking around it. I would separate the two out. Get yourself a good antenna. Enjoy your 7200. When you're ready to upgrade, I'd skip the 7300 just because the 7200, 7300 will be similar in performance. Go to a 7610 or the FTDX10 or the FTDX100. Now you're going way to the top of the line, and you can have some fancy radios. For many years, I preferred ICOM radios just for their sound. Now I use a headset with it. I've got a little foot switch over here, and that just helps keep out all the other noise and allows me to really concentrate on the signal. Now, there you go. That's a lot of stuff on the two. Separate the two out. Improve your antenna first, and then when you're ready, go ahead and upgrade your radio. Do you have to upgrade the antenna with that? No, no. A good full-size unity gain antenna will operate either radio essentially identically, okay? All the noise reduction circuitry, I don't know how much you've got in your 7200, but the 7300 has some excellent noise reduction circuitry. The FTDX 3000 has some superb internal built-in noise reduction via DSP. The old Ten-Tec has some. Prior to that, I had an outboard box. Well, it's now sold, I think, by West Mountain Radio. It was the 599 plus or something like that, and it was an audio filter, and whoa, that thing could pick a signal out of nowhere. I've not seen a radio with that kind of performance yet. There you have it. Can I ask all of you a favor? Become a member of the channel. It doesn't cost really much. You can do it for a very, very small amount of money each month. And then that way you will get an early look at all our videos. They'll be put up there for you to view as soon as they're made, not at the time of the YouTube release. So you get them earlier. You can do the same with Patreon, and we try to catch all our PayPal subscribers and make sure they get that too. So, until we next meet, persevere in 73.